Hi, my name is James Hankins.
My name is Benjamin Shepard.
And this is POWWOW.
Woo! Here are the birthdays for this week.
Kai Wynn.
Trayvon Ellis.
Jacob Gonzalez.
Kaya Strickland.
Kevin Home.
Diana Cruces.
Ibrahim Otakiti. And here are our athletes for the week. Thank you to Jared Antilion, Corbin Carruthers, and TJ Willis for an amazing performance at the niche blowout game.
Micah Hassey had an outstanding performance at his last tennis outing. Congratulations to Timmy, Danielle and Dylan Ross, and Zach for their performances and placing first in their heat in track. Congratulations to all of our Lady Warriors who placed first and second team All-District, as well as Leah Lawson for getting All-State MVP and Orlana for getting All-District MVP, as well as taking home the championship. Woo!
And of course, we can't forget about the boys who placed third in state.
Yeah! And the students we'd like to recognize this week for their accolades are Fallon Joyner for being quiet and consistently hardworking in Mr. Pirlo's class.
And Dr. Joseph would like to thank Mahaley as well as Renee Lynn for working so hard.
Woo! Now let's welcome Coach Skinner.
Hey guys, Coach Skinner here. Well, I am sitting in my car, and that's ironic because the topic I'm going to discuss with you today is dependability. And the reason I'm sitting in my car is because the weather was not dependable today. The wind is blowing and howling, and I tried sitting in my backyard and giving you this beautiful illustration of a hammock and how it's dependable. I'm counting on it to hold me up when I sit in it, and yet I just could not get good sound on it. So instead, I'm up at the school right now, sitting in my vehicle, filming this. Here's the deal. Let me be real honest. I didn't like the word dependable. It was always associated with weird things for me. You watch some of those old TV shows. Boy, you sure do have a dependable washer and dryer, right? That's not really a word that I want to be associated with. One that I might have heard a few times growing up is, "Hey Skinner, that piece of junk car you have sure is dependable," meaning, hey, it's lasted a long time, right? Well, I guess here I am sitting in a dependable vehicle talking to you about dependability. So what does it mean? It can mean a lot of things, guys. Most of the time when you look it up, it is a list of synonyms. Okay, so I've come up with 3 that I want you to remember when it comes to dependability. Reliability, trustworthiness, and faithfulness. 3 words that I want you to take with you. Now, why those 3? Because I think that's what I hope that that's what each of you would strive for. To be reliable, trustworthy, and faithful young men and young women who can make a huge difference, not only in this school, but in this world. When I was growing up, I got my first job at 14, and I promise this ties in. I'm not going to make it real long-winded because I realize for most of you, you're going to catch about 5 minutes of what I say. That tends to be the norm for talks like this. But here's the deal. I started working when I was 14. Started throwing papers with my older brother. He was 16. And yes, believe it or not, there was a time where we actually did deliver papers to people's homes. 365 days a year. No matter if it was a holiday, rain, sleet, snow, we would get up. We would go about 2:30 in the morning to the depot, pick up 250 papers, roll them up, stuff them in these little bags, and drive around until about 5:30, throwing them out onto people's driveways. The Dallas Morning News at that time, at least our supervisor, had never hired anyone as young as us, and he was reluctant but gave us a shot. And over time, we had to prove that we were dependable, that we were going to be reliable, that we were going to be trustworthy, that we were going to be faithful to showing up every day. Not something that a lot of high school kids were going to do back in that time. And yet we did it for about 2.5, 3 years. And we proved ourselves to be that way. And I carried that with me from that point forward into every job I had. I worked a pizza place and a fast food joint. At the same time I was throwing papers, by the way. I worked at a video store. Yes, there were stores where you could go in and rent videos, believe it or not. I worked at a steakhouse, at a bank. I've worked on a ranch before. I worked for my father for 14 years in software developing. Went to the mission field for 10 years. We lived in the country of Uganda, traveled extensively throughout East and Central Africa and in many different countries doing mission work. And then I came here to Newman. In all of those things, I think what stands out is what I was striving for. And in every job I've had, it hasn't always been about getting to the top. It hasn't been about being the best for notoriety. It's been about being a reliable, faithful, trustworthy employee, someone that people can count on to get the job done, someone that they can count on no matter what. Have I always lived up to that? Probably not. And if you were to go back and talk to a lot of my old employers, I hope they would say good things about me. I can't promise back in those days that they would have or wouldn't have. But I believe it stuck with me from that very first job, throwing papers, all the way through travels to East Africa and now back here at Newman, that it is vitally important that you learn how to be dependable in all areas of your life. And for some of you, you're going, okay, Skinner, what does that have to do with me? I don't have a job right now, or man, I'm just a freshman at Newman, or I'm a senior at Newman. I'm getting ready to go out, but I don't get what you're talking about. Well, here's the deal. 3 areas, right? In school, in family, and in sports. And maybe we can put sports off to life, okay? Guys, people look at your name. And the way you live your life gives an opinion, whether it's a good one or bad one, to those that come in contact with you. Being dependable is a great thing if we're focused on those 3 issues, right? Being reliable, being trustworthy, and being faithful. So how do you do that? Well, in school, for instance, what kind of student are you? I'm not talking about are you an A or B student. Those of you that know me know that while I'm happy that you get good grades, a lot of you, that's not the end all for me. The end all is, are you living up to who you can be and who you should be? Are you showing up on time? Are you helping your teachers out? Are you saying yes, ma'am, and no, sir? Are you being respectful? Are you listening to what they tell you? That's one way to handle it. And by doing that, you're showing that you are dependable, that you are reliable, that you are trustworthy, that you are faithful to being the best person you can be. And some of you choose not to do that. Some of you choose to talk back. Some of you choose to bow up against discipline. Some of you choose to mouth off. And I got to tell you, that's going to follow you guys. If you can't learn to do that now, you're never going to learn to be able to do that later in life. What about at home? What are you doing there? Are you being a dependable part of your family? Can your parents count on you to be reliable, to be trustworthy, to be faithful to doing the small things, doing the chores, helping out with the cooking, helping do the laundry, clean the house? Are you being respectful to them? Or are you just kind of being yourself and not really caring? I don't know, something to think about. What about in life? Outside of those 2 areas, just in life. And I relate it to sports because I think sports are a good illustration of life a lot of the time. You're going to have to work in teams. There's very few jobs you'll have where you're working just by yourself. You got to work with other people. Are you modeling faithfulness there? Are you modeling trustworthiness there? Are you modeling reliability? Most of you know that the 2019 football season wasn't, or 2020 football season wasn't what we all wanted it to be. Four games in 4 months, not great, huh? And yet what I did witness is I witnessed a group of guys who were willing to be dependable. They didn't have to be. They could have quit, and I wouldn't have blamed a lot of them if they had. But they didn't. They stuck it out. They practiced for weeks on end sometimes just to get to play a game every 3 or 4 weeks. It wasn't ideal, and yet they stuck it out. They proved that they were reliable, that they were trustworthy, that they were faithful to finishing what they started. I could list off a whole list of names. There's a lot of them that come to my mind on those that were really great examples of just putting themselves before a team. And guys, that's what it's going to take in life. Dependability may sound like this bland old term, right? Like, oh, well, great, I'm dependable. I'm sorry if it does, but I promise you it's worth it to develop that habit now of being that person that people can count on. Being someone who is faithful, who is trustworthy, who is reliable. In that, you guys know me, I'm not going to get into deep religious stuff, but I am going to say, and you've heard me say it in my classroom, you've heard me say it on a sports field, you know where I stand, guys. I've been very open and honest with all of you on that. But what I would challenge you to do is find a faith system that works for you. If it's not mine, so be it. But find a faith system that you can stand on, that you can rely on, that is trustworthy, that is dependable. Because without that, you're never going to be that person that I believe God wants you to be. You're never going to be the person that is going to be able to look beyond themselves. I know I wasn't, not at your age. I know I struggle with it even now at 48. But I do understand that it's important. I serve a faithful God. I believe He is who He says He is. And because of that, it allows me, even in my weaknesses, to still strive to be the person He's called me to be. And I believe part of that is a word that I don't necessarily like, that I think is sometimes boring, and that is dependable. I hope I've been that. I hope I've been that to a lot of you as my students. I hope I've been that to a lot of you as my co-workers and my co-teachers here at Newman. Hope I've been that to everybody I've been in contact with. Because it's important, guys. Don't write off a word because you don't like it. Hang in there. Be dependable. Be that faithful, trustworthy, reliable person that people can count on. It'll pay off in the long run. Love you guys.
Hi, I'm Miss Boone. I am a 10th grade English teacher here at Newman. I am also an ESL coordinator here for the high school. And I also do instructional technology here at the high school, which means that I just teach teachers more about the technology we've got at hand here. Dependability to me means that when I need something, that somebody is there to do it for me. That I can always depend or rely upon them to either help me or be there for me if I just need somebody to talk to. I would say that the majority of the time, I would say I'm a dependable person. Sometimes when our schedules get really hectic, I can't always be there when I want to be. Dependability is definitely a good attribute. You've got to be a dependable person in order to be a good colleague. You have to be a dependable person in order to be a good worker. And you have to be a dependable person to be a good spouse and a good sibling, good mom. So I guess I look at it as how would I want somebody to be for my own kid. The reason I got back into teaching was because of my own students and my own kids that are, I wanted to be the type of teacher that I wanted my kids to have. So that's really what drives me to be dependable for my students. I always wanted to be that way because that's the whole reason I got back into teaching was to be that type of teacher for my students because that's who I wanted my own kids to have. But as far as being a dependable person, it was always just expected of me because that's who my parents brought me up to be. I think it says a lot about a person, not just about me, but it says a lot about the people who might depend on me. So feels like people trust me. That I have to say, I know when I'm having a rough day or when I'm having just a day to where I need somebody, I like to have a dependable person to go to and say, hey, I just really need help today. Because as you very well know, you can't be 100% all the time. And you always need other dependable people. You can't just be the only dependable person around. In my life, my dad. So, and my grandmother. My grandmother was one of the best teachers I ever knew. And she was very dependable, and she was a lot like I am for her students. But my dad is also a very dependable person. My advice is follow through with what you say you're going to do. That's kind of a pet peeve of mine, is when people don't follow through with what they say they're going to do. Just follow through with things. And keep following through with things. The older you get, the more you will. So start now, keep a schedule, keep things written down, and keep following through with them.
Third quarter report cards come out this Thursday.
And Friday is a B-Day.
Now for our school song.
May God bless our school as we march to light tomorrow and stand tall today. With love, faith, and hope, we rise to build our nation. With wisdom, stature, and faith, yeah. May God bless our school today and forever.
Great, look, we finally got the